Sometimes life gets super busy. How
Uh-huh.
do you, yeah, Zach relates right now. How do you get your science fiction and fantasy when there's no time? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Uh,
He needs the information.
okay, so maybe a little bit of a misnomer that Zach needs this information, but also my time is limited right now. Work and school and various things. Trying to get real life happening means I've got less time for fantasy bullshit. I like it, and I like fitting that time in, but I have to be intentional. So, what am I doing? What are some things you do, Dad? Because you're moving around a lot and do things your way.
Yeah, well, I do a lot, like telling them, "Hi, we're fantasy for the ages."
No, we're not.
A father and son who talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things that we enjoy. We hope you'll enjoy this and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll see everything we keep coming at you with. So, what I do to manage to squeeze in science fiction and fantasy content and other nerdy stuff, no matter how busy I am, is just some simple routines. One of them is I end my day reading a book.
That's a good one.
That's pretty much every day. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. But the last thing I do before I go to sleep is I'll read a book. Now, I started that when I was younger, like you, and couldn't easily get to sleep. And I would toss and turn, and I was like, this is stupid. So I would read in bed. And I would read until literally the book fell and hit me on the face. This was before the days of e-devices. So I always had a book. And when it hits me in the head, I think I'm tired enough.
Time to go to bed.
Go to sleep.
Time to go to bed.
Yeah. I had all sorts of light devices. So your mother could be there sleeping and it's dark. And I just have my little flashlight or attached thing. I mean, they still sell these things, but they're not as popular now because people have ebooks. And they light themselves, which is great. So that's one way. Do you do that? Is that something you like to do?
Yes and no, which is to say, I don't do it consistently every night. I have various different routines and things, partially depending on how late is it, what night is it, what do I have to do the next morning, but partially with trying to establish routines and get some healthy things. Rach has set an alarm where no matter what she's doing, the alarm goes off. It's time to get ready, get in bed, start reading for half an hour or so, and
go to sleep. That.
And so she's got that planned out, which then means I'm usually right there and possibly reading as well. Sometimes I do other things. Sometimes I'm giving Rolly attention because he's a good boy who deserves it. But it is a planned time. It also helps give a better sleep schedule because I'm not the best at that.
Yeah. Reading is really essential for managing life stress because it is a great stress reliever. That's scientifically proven. Losing yourself in fiction doesn't have to be fantasy or sci-fi. Any good fiction serves this purpose because it disconnects you from the pressures of life and lets you escape for a little while into something else. Another way that I will fit in science fiction and fantasy is through audiobooks.
And that was my next point as well.
I can use them when driving. I can use them when I exercise.
So we can do this.
You do audiobooks as well in those kinds of circumstances?
A couple of years back, audiobooks replaced music as the thing I listen to while I drive. If I'm doing 5 minutes to the store or I'm doing 20 minutes to work or something, I'm listening to books. And people think it's weird. And anytime Rach and I are in the car together, we have to be intentional and go, no, we're listening to music this time. And I'm intentional about that because being in a random part of a book that she isn't reading in a series that she hasn't read would just not make sense. There are some exceptions in that she's caught a couple key good scenes in The Way of Kings by accidentally listening to my audiobook at one point. So she can still reference those scenes or those Kaladin by certain scenes, but like that's about it. The other thing that people do look at me weird for is one that you already kind of mentioned with audiobooks while exercising. Now, as far as I'm aware, you mean that to be like when you're out on a walk.
Primarily, yep.
I mean that as I go to the gym. And that's what I've got going in my ears. I don't have good pumping music. I don't have something motivational. I have books.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that. Something to keep the mind engaged in other things. I will, yeah, it's my primary thing when I'm driving. I don't listen to audiobooks when your mom's with me. That's when we'll listen to music. But I do some serious long drives for work sometimes. I have not this coming week. This is Friday, so not this coming week, but the week after, I'm driving to Montana.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to drive to Spokane, Washington one day. It's about 5.5 hours. Then I'll drive the rest of the way the next day. And, that's hours and hours and hours. When I do those long haul drives like that, I'll listen to audiobooks, but sometimes I'll hit a point where I'm not getting enough action out of the book. Well, I will have to switch to music that's really loud and singable for just a few minutes.
I
Because
don't
I got to be
typically have that problem.
active and wake myself up.
I know where you're going in that one. I don't really have that problem.
You don't drive for 10 hours at a time.
No, even when I did drives like that, books were fine for me. But it's partially because my brain is going crazy on them. I listen faster than you do.
That's true.
I have quite a colorful information or imagination with books, which does lead me to a problem sometimes. I can't do audiobooks if the task that I am doing requires too much brain power.
Oh, sure.
If I have to do anything that involves reading any other word at any point through it, it's toast, which stinks because there's lots of times where I'm like, if I wanted to work on D&D prep, or if I have something for class or work or something, and I've got the space and time, that's a great time to put my earbuds in, go to town on a book, and I can't. And that's unfortunate.
I have friends who have jobs where they can listen to audiobooks all day while they're working. And I'm like, that's not my job. No, I totally engage the brain all the time I'm working. I could not also listen to an audiobook. But chores around the house? Absolutely.
Now, moving away from audiobooks, I do find time, it is a valid thing to be able to, if you can, and it works with your job, mix your books and your jobs in some way, shape, or form. If that means you can listen to it, awesome. I work in a clinical environment that sometimes has a couple minutes of downtime between each patient kind of thing. And so sometimes that means I'm reading a page or two of a book, sitting there waiting for my next patient to arrive or waiting on the results on something. And it's very like close, have to time it out sometimes. But if I've got the downtime here and there for it, it's a great way to also still stay engaged and not feel like I'm falling asleep if it's not active at work.
Yep. There you go. That totally works.
But if my bosses hear this, maybe I don't do that.
It's okay. Your bosses mostly like this kind of stuff too, right?
And most of the people I think who would stumble upon this have seen me doing this. It's fine.
What's just most important is, remembering that no matter how busy you are, finding some time for good fantasy and sci-fi books is possible. You can still fit it into just in the midst of the things you're doing. Watching fantasy and sci-fi is different. Finding time for TV, oh man, that gets really hard at times.
Harder, especially because you have to choose to do that instead of reading in the limited time you do have.
Yeah. So if something's going to suffer, it's going to be screen time. But that's okay. Our brains engage better with actual books. Anyway, I think. Well, we hope that you continue to get through some things because we want you to have content to come talk to our people about.
Me too. I've still got books to go. I'm at 45, 50, but I got to get to 60 by the end of the year. So I still got to work at it.
About that far now. I'm not getting anywhere as far as I hoped because Malazan, man. It took a long time to get through those Malazan books.
It's okay.
And there are more Malazan books to read, but the core is done.
Yes. I'm getting plenty far because I'm stalling on Malazan.
Yeah, Dead House Gates, man. That was the hardest one for me to get through on them the first time.
Trust me, it's not because it's bad. It's
not. But you lack context.
Because this is small.
I'm going to tell you, those books on a reread, I can already tell they're going to be just amazing. But anyways, I think that's a good place to wrap it up here. The pizza just showed up. I heard it, so I got to go eat.
Pizza sounds good. Maybe I'll have pizza tonight.
Why not? Well, it's fun hanging out with you for a bit, Zach. Thanks for the time. And all of you out there, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.